Mu Lai, the Zui deity, calls on the gods above for a favor. He willingly gives up his godhood and 5,000 years of cultivation just to return to the world, to right his wrongs and atone for his past. Mu Lai achieves this by using the fate-changing skill, and he succeeds around the 5th month of the year 2017. Mu Lai arrives in the world and vows that this time he will not allow Zhao Xiang to harm his family. Mu Lai goes straight to his room at Longxing University to plan his next line of action. He knows that he must make money to change his family's financial status, but first, he needs to make quick money for survival. Mu Lai sits at his table and begins to work on his computer when some of his dorm mates entered unannounced, but he ignores them. They threaten him to buy them dinner or they will reveal this secret, that he is not from a rich family and has been living a fake life, but he tells them that he does not care. Mu Lai notices that he has not his cultivation, but he decides that it will not stop him. Leaving the angry boys behind, he goes to a store to sell his laptop and thinks of how hard his mother worked to get it for him. As he leaves the store, he meets his kid sister. Mu Lai recovers from the surprise of seeing his younger sister and quickly calls out to her. In his previous life, she got dragged into his mess, and she ended up committing suicide because of the pressure from Zhao Xiang, but this time, Mu Lai makes a vow to himself that he will protect her. His sister gives him $5,000, which she earned from her part-time job, and tells him to stop bothering your mother for money. Mu Lai is dumbfounded at his sister's gesture, but she tells him to stop acting dumb because she knows he threatened their mom that he will quit school if she does not send him more money, and he has also been fooling around with his friends. His sister thrusts the money into his hands and begins to walk away. Mu Lai learns that his sister quit school to work because they have a debt to pay. He hugs her and promises her that he will sort the issue, and his sister thinks that something is different about him. After the meeting, Mu Lai buys a spiritual drink, which aids in faster cultivation, and prepares it to drink. He practices the most superior set of cultivation methods and gains success in stage 1. With this ability, he thinks he can handle all ordinary martial artists from Waxia, which is the fastest way to make money. Mu Lai visits a cafe and logs into the world's black market, where people exchange information, sell goods, and give and accept missions that cannot make it to the real world. He reads through the list of missions and sees information about the leading people with a reputation on the web. Soon he comes across a job where someone offers money to have Su Jiaqi, a millionaire's daughter, killed. He sees that Feng Sai has accepted the mission, and he continues to scroll through the web. He notices that Suan, the millionaire, has offered double the price for someone to protect his daughter for a month, but nobody dares to accept the mission because of Feng Xi's personality. Mu Lai accepts the mission, which makes everyone wonder who dares to challenge Feng Sivai. Mu Lai logs off the internet and calls Suan's house for someone to pick him up from the cafe. Suan's assistant is skeptical about the expertise of the person, but he tells her that it is already a miracle that somebody accepted the mission. Mu Lai is brought to Suan's villa, and he meets up with the millionaire for the discussion. Mu Lai offers that they walk around the villa and talk, and Suan walks with him. As Mu Lai surveys the property, Suan tells him that he revealed the illegal dealings of his opponent in the business world, and the person is now seeking revenge. As they walked, Mu Lai notices that the villa is quiet, even though it is crowded by barely qualified bodyguards moving around the place. Suan is impressed that Mu Lai noticed the bodyguards after one surveillance of the property, but Mu Lai tells him what he feels about the guards. Just then, Suan's assistant informs him that Lin Yu, a mid-ranked martial artist, and his disciple Zhao Chuan are around. Suan meets his guests with Mu Lai, and Lin Yu pledges his support to help with the situation since he was old friends with Suan's father. Suan tells him that he would have hired more help, but everyone is scared to agree to the task because of Feng Sai. Lin Yu accesses Mu Lai and thinks that he is too young for the mission, but he does not say it out. His disciple, however, did not contain his reservations and challenged Mu Lai. His master calls him to order and decides to listen to Mu Lai's plan. Mu Lai tells Suan to withdraw his guards because they are weak and they will not be of any help. He tells Lin Yu and Zhao Chuan that they are barely qualified, which makes Zhao Chuan pissed. Zhao Chuan challenges Mu Lai again, and Mu Lai tells him to call everyone that can fight and come in at once. Suan tries to intervene by asking Mu Lai to rather have a one-on-one duel with Zhao Chuan instead of facing all the men, but he disagrees. Zhao Chuan tells Mu Lai in a sarcastic manner that they will see how long he can last. Suan, Lin Yu, and Zhao Chuan stand to the side as all the guards within the property rush to attack Mu Lai, who stands in their center with hands in his pocket. All the guards charge at Mu Lai, with different weapons in their hands, but he does not move. Suan and the others are surprised that he has not made any effort to counter the attackers rushing over to him, but Mu Lai affects a posture of nonchalance and continues to watch them approach. When they have properly closed in around him, he calls on his powers and all the guards violently fly into the air and they crash to the ground. Suan and Lin Yu gasps in surprise. But Mu Lai is not done. He calls Zhao Chuan to challenge him, and he throws Chuan away in the same manner. Lin Yu apologizes for underrating Mu Lai, and he tells them that Mu Lai has a higher level of cultivation, and even someone that just broke through the realm of Zun is no match for him. Inside the house, Suan's daughter wakes up because of the noise outside. Inside the house, Suan entertains Mu Lai and praises his talents. Mu Lai sees that they are mistaking him for a Wuzun, but he does not correct them. Suan is convinced that his daughter is safe in Mu Lai's hands and asks if there is anything he can do to help. Mu Lai tells Suan to make a deposit of $20 million to him and abide by all he says concerning security. Without any form of hesitation, Suan promises to do all that Mu Lai has said. Mu Lai tells Suan that he needs to go out the next day, so the money transfer would have to be done immediately, and this alarms Lin Yu. Not because of the money, but because according to Feng Xi's mode of operation, he will strike within 2 days. Mu Lai tells Suan that his daughter will follow him wherever he goes. Sujaki, Suan's only daughter, strolls into the room in her nightwear. Her father scolds her to dress decently, and she tells him that she wants to stop hiding at home and go out. After settling it the next day, she heads out with Mu Li under strict instructions to obey him, but she refuses to listen to a mere bodyguard and directs the driver to the mall. But Mu Lai tells the driver to head to the university. Jia Qi asks the driver whose orders he will follow, and he tells her that her father instructed him before they left the house to follow every instruction from Mu Lai. Jia Qi starts to act up and tells the driver to stop the car, but Mu Lai is not bothered about her spoiled attitude. Instead, he tells the driver to stop the car, and he did. Jia Qi tells them that she will visit the mall alone and steps out of the car. But the environment is deserted with nothing else on the road except their vehicle, and she angrily gets into the car again. Mu Lai strikes a deal with her that if she allows him to go into the dorm, he will take her shopping afterwards, and she grudgingly agrees. At the university's dorm, the boys see Jia Qi with Mu Lai, and they begin to call her and compliment her beauty to gain her attention, but Jia Qi is disgusted with the environment. She tries to step back in the car, but the driver tells her that her father's instruction is that she should always be with Mu Lai. She follows Mu Lai inside the dorm room, and the other boys leave their video games to talk her into having fun with them. But Mu Lai intercepts them. Mu Lai stands between his 3 dorm mates and Jia Qi to protect her from their disgusting jokes and comments. Since they will not stop, he decides to put them in their place with his powers. He puts them in an illusion where fearful monsters were scaring them, and they all fall to their knees begging for mercy. Mu Lai steps into the dorm room and tells Jia Qi to give him time to pack some clothes, and afterwards, he will take her wherever she wants. After packing his things, they leave the dorm room to the car where the driver asks him for directions. After making a call, he gives the driver an address and they head to the place. On their way, Jia Qi asks him to reveal the trick he used on the boys, but Mu Lai does not tell her. Rather, he tells her to be on her best behavior since she has seen what he is capable of doing, which scares her. They soon arrive at a restaurant, where Mu Lai's sister Mu Xin works. Mu Lai and Jia Qi are ushered inside by waitresses, and he asks for Mu Xin. One of the waitresses helps him to call Mu Xin, who is on her way back with a customer's order, and she staggers at the sight of her brother. When Mu Lai sees the customer his sister was serving, he became highly displeased. The 23-year-old Sun Chengren, who is the sole heir to a properties company, is Mu Xin's customer, who tells her that she should come over for a chat because she has kept him waiting. Mu Xin makes an excuse that she is busy with work, but Sun Chengren gets in her front with a ring and asks her to be his girlfriend. At this point, everyone's attention is on them, and even Jia Qi recognizes him and the family he belongs to. Sun Chengren tells Mu Xin that he knows her family is poor and she has a brother who does nothing but squanders money, but being his girlfriend will elevate her into wealth. Mu Xin declines and moves away from him, which makes him angry. Sun Chengren takes the water from his table and pours it in front of his trousers. He calls the manager to report that Mu Xin poured the water on him and she should be called to lick it up. Without waiting to confirm, the manager calls Mu Xin and starts to talk to her rudely. As he raises his hand, Mu Lai comes in and catches the manager's hand. He throws him to the side and faces Sun Chengren. Sun Chengren begins to brag, but Mu Lai flings him to the ground, and the man starts to make threats. Sun Chengren tells Mu Lai that the Sun Group will come for him, but Mu Li pays no mind to the threats. Jiu Qi comes to stand in front of Sun Chengren and asks if he truly wants to take on any issue with Mu Lai. Sun Chengren is thrown out of the place and he tells Jiu Qi that he will not forget what has happened. Mu Lai takes Mu Xin along, still in her work clothes as a waitress. Jiu Qi tries to brag that she saved Mu Lai from the situation, but he corrects her that she saved Sun Chengren's life from him. Mu Xin remembers that she is yet to change her clothes, but Mu Lai tells her not to worry. He asks Jiu Qi for a place to shop for clothes, and she excitedly takes them there. At the place, Mu Xin tries on a set of clothes, but she sees the price tag and drops them. Jiu Qi tells her that her brother can afford it on his salary, and she buys them. Mu Lai gives her $200,000 and tells her to take some and give the rest to their mother. Mu Xin confronts him about his sudden change and he tells her that someone taught him martial arts, but she refuses to believe him. Mu Lai tells his sister that he is now a changed person, but his effort to convince her seems to be failing because she tells him that she does not believe he will just change without a reason. The siblings continue to talk and Mu Xin suddenly laughs and tells her brother to forget what she said because it is good that he is now a changed person. She tells him that she will tell their mother about all that has happened, and Mu Li asks her to apologize to their mother on his behalf, but she tells him to do it himself and leaves. Jiu Qi mocks Mu Lai in the car, but he does not react to it. She tells him that she has helped him a lot for the day, and he chooses to repay her by taking her to wherever she wants. Jiu Qi becomes excited and chooses to go shopping. After shopping, Mu Lai returns to the car with a lot of bags, and they took off again. On their way, he becomes alert but tries to tell the driver that all is well. As they passed, a watcher communicates to someone that they were approaching. Just in front of them, a tree falls to block the road, and Mu Lai mutters to himself that he will have fun with the attacker who has chosen to play tricks on him. Mu Lai controls the attack of his opponents with his hands, which shocks the men watching from the cover of the bushes. Jiu Qi comes out of the car to see the source of all the noise and commotion to meet her driver on the ground. He explains that there has been an ambush on them, which Mu Lai is now taking care of. The attackers release poisonous gas into the air, which makes people fall unconscious, and it affects Jiu Qi and the driver, and they slump to the ground. Mu Lai thinks that he may have to display some of his skills to get them out, and he disappears behind the attackers who are wondering where he has gone to. The leader of the attackers instructs his men to hurriedly move Jiu Qi, the target, but Mu Lai appears behind them and asks who they were working for. The man refuses to answer him and instead runs to attack him. With a leaf, he eliminates them to the surprise of their master, and Mu Lai repeats his question. The attacker refuses to answer, rather, he chooses poison to kill himself. Mu Lai thinks that he was too careless, but he gets to work to save Jiu Qi. He casts a spell over her, while hoping that she will not wake up at that moment, because it will not be good. Jiu Qi slowly begins to regain consciousness, and when she is fully alert, she jumps to her feet and wonders what Mu Lai was doing to her. Mu Lai tells her that he was saving her as a way of explanation. He moves to save the driver, and Jiu Qi looks around them to see dead bodies. The driver asks him what has happened when he became conscious, but Mu Lai tells them that they will talk about everything at the villa. Back at the villa, Mu Lai explains to Suen and everyone agrees that they cannot get careless, so Jiu Qi will remain at home. Mu Lai asks the clan that uses a leaf symbol on their body, and he identifies the attackers. This means that Jiu Qi has more than one organization now looking for her, which means they needed to be extra careful. Mu Lai requests some jade ornaments, and Suen thinks that Mu Lai is trying to bless the ornament to ward off evil, but he is told that it is what scammers say, but the believers in martial arts do not believe in it. He apologizes for the opinion, and Mu Lai returns to his room with the jade ornaments. In his room, he performs a ritual over it and takes it to Jiu Qi's room. He tells her to have the jade ornament on her person always. Mu Lai presents the remaining jade ornaments to Suen and explains how it works to him. He throws a few around using the bodyguard's gun and tells him that some are only for illusion, so it is for a one-time use. Lin Yu is fascinated by Mu Lai's work and commends him. Mu Lai gives the original jade ornaments to Suen, who asks if his daughter can have one with her. Mu Lai tells him that he has given Jiu Qi her own. He tells Suen to take one of the real jade ornaments for himself, and send the remaining ones to his mom and sister, which Suwon promises to do for him. The next day, Jia-chi is grumpy because of the restrictions, and angry that Mu-lai wants her to wear the jade ornaments. She chooses to defy him by not wearing them, and she tells her father that she wants to go out. Mu-lai tells him to allow her, but he notices that she is not wearing the jade ornaments and decides to follow her, which annoys Jia-chi because she will not be able to have fun with him hovering around her. Outside, she tries to trick Mu-lai by telling him she needs the restroom. From there, she climbs down from a window, but Mu-lai sees her before she climbs down. Jia-chi remains on top of the air conditioner of the building, refusing to come down. Instead, she asks Mu-lai how he discovered her, and he retorts that she should be bothered about coming down instead of asking questions. This embarrasses Jia-chi and she suddenly becomes self-conscious. She returns to the bathroom, and Mu-lai appears at the door beside her. As she peeks from the doorway, a lady walks up to Mu-lai. The lady, Leia, was Mu-lai's high schoolmate, whom he had a crush on in his former life. She chats with him and asks if he is on a date, but Jia-chi replies from the doorway that they are not. Leo invites Mu-lai to her birthday party, which was in a few days, and leaves. During the conversation, Jia-chi stole the car keys and ran away without a driver's license, which the driver reports to Mu-lai. Jia-chi happily drives away to her freedom, which was not for long. Mu-lai reports that someone without a license is on the road, and the police intercepts Jia-chi. Jia-chi wonders how she was caught, but she sees Mu-lai with the police and begins to insult him. 3 days later, Mu-lai knocks on Jia-chi's door, but she is still mad at him. He tells her that he needs her help, and she answers the door. Mu-lai cajoles Jia-chi till she agrees to his request to accompany him to Lai Yo's birthday party. The party is already in full swing when they arrive, and Lai Yo waves them over to her side where she stands with Lai Hong. Mu-lai wishes Lai Yo a happy birthday, and she introduces herself as Mu-lai's former classmate to Jia-chi. Jia-chi introduces himself to her also, and just then, Wu-ming calls out to Mu-lai. Mu-lai remembers the horrible circumstance that Wu-ming put him through in his former life when he accused him of stealing a wallet. After the embarrassment and humiliation, Mu-lai starts to experience problems with other people. Even though time has passed since the incident, Mu-lai knows that he will never truly forget it. Wu-ming calls out to Mu-lai and asks how he can afford his clothes and appear before them. Jia-chi becomes tired of the environment and asks Mu-lai if they should step out. Not long after, Sun Chengren and his father arrive at the party and they began to mingle. Sun Chengren makes a toast to Lai Yo, and she resolves to stay away from him because he is a playboy. Sun Chengren cites Mu-lai and makes friends with Wu-ming immediately. He tells Wu-ming to humiliate Mu-lai, and he agrees. Wu-ming and Sun Chengren make a plan on how to humiliate Mu-lai, and they wait for the right moment. At the food table, Mu-lai has a hard time getting Jia-chi away from the cake. He pleads with her to consider her reputation because of her mode of eating, but she tells him that the cake is too sweet. Wu-ming calls out to Mu-lai, and though he knows that nothing good will come out of it, he answers Wu-ming. Mu-lai walks up to Wu-ming, who starts to make casual talk. Sun Chengren suddenly shouts that Mu-lai has stolen his accessory, and everyone turns to them. Wu-ming starts to accuse Mu-lai that he has always been insolent since high school, and he thought there has been a change. Lai Yo pleads that they may be mistaken in their allegations, but Sun Chengren insists that Mu-lai stole from him. Sun Chengren moves closer to Mu-lai, and he slips his wristwatch into Mu-lai's pocket. He brings out the watch from Mu-lai's pocket and quickly points it around, and Mu-lai knew he has had enough. He pushes Sun Chengren, and his father demands an apology to their family for disgracing Chengren. Mu-lai refuses, and Jia-chi steps into the matter, which makes everyone gang up against Mu-lai. The guards and some other men all surround Mu-lai to bully him, and Sun Chengren advises him to surrender because he cannot win against the men. Jia-chi worries about what Mu-lai will do, but he simply tells her to move to the side, away from the fight. The men begin to draw closer to Mu-lai, and he is left in the middle. But everyone realizes that the air is changing even though they do not understand what is happening. Mu-lai turns into several versions of himself and attacks the men from all angles. Everyone wonders if he is a ghost because of his skills. Jia-chi cheers for him from the side and tells him to get Mr. Sun. From the side, Mr. Sun starts to smile nervously at Mu-lai and tries to get away because of his status as a rich man. He quickly tells Mu-lai that he is in the city, but Mu-lai slaps him and he falls to the ground. Chengren starts to protest, but when Wu-ming sees Mu-lai's power, he confesses that it was Sun Chengren that set Mu-lai up. Suan comes into the place and respectfully asks Mulai what is going on. Seeing the situation, he talks to Miss Sun that they should resolve the matter as adults, and everyone begins to fawn over Mulai. The Wumeng organization seeks to see Mulai, and he asks Lin Yu about them. Lin Yu enters a room with Mulai and introduces him to the white group leader named Bai Shishin. Inside the room, Bai Shishin tells Mulai that he took the contract to protect Jioqi, so they invited him to greet him and also pledge their support. Mulai looks completely bored of being in the room or even having a conversation, and he asks if that was all. One of Bai Shishin's men calls Mulai out for his arrogance, but Bai Shishin tells his man to stand back. He tells him not to get worked up over a short-lived ghost. Seeing that he has nothing to do inside the room, Mulai turns to go back. Back at the party, Mulai meets Lai Yao to give her a present for her birthday. Lai Yao opens the box and sees a piece of jade jewelry, and Mulai tells her to wear it always. Jioqi hides behind a door to eavesdrop on Mulai and Jioqi, and she is angry that Mulai is giving out her family's jade. Lai Yao invites Mulai to the costume party, and Lai Yao dresses in an unrecognizable manner. Lai Yao and Mulai hang out away from the others, but Mulai soon begins to hear strange noises, and he decides to check it out. After making sure that Mulai has gone away, some evil men arrive to take Lai Yao away, but they are unable to draw close because of her jade jewelry. The kidnappers arrive outside the house, and they report what transpired to their leader. But they have one victim with them. Bai Shishin intercepts the leader of the gang named Hong Kwang, and an argument starts between them because they have always been rivals. Hong Kwang accuses Bai Shishin of leading men to destroy his acacia, so he cannot let Bai Shishin leave the place with his life. Mulai enters the place and tells the men that he does not care about the reason why they are fighting, but he gives Hong Kwang a minute to give back Jioqi or he will regret it. Bai Shishin tries to warn Mulai to back off because he is not of equal strength to Hong Kwang, but again, Mulai is unbothered. Bai Shishin and Hong Kwang get into a fight, but Hong Kwang gets deceptive by drawing a knife on Bai Shishin. Mulai surprises both men with his power by kicking Hong Kwang and defeating his disciple. Meanwhile, Jioqi wakes up in a strange moving vehicle and realizes that she has been kidnapped. The strange men make crude jokes at her because she is beautiful and irresistible. She tries to move away from them as much as possible in the small confines of the car, but she is unable to do so. Instead, they come closer to her, which makes her scared and uncomfortable. Jioqi quietly wishes to herself that Mulai was there to save her. The men argue amongst themselves that she is someone's property, and they will have her when the person is done. As they were still talking, just ahead of them, Mulai stands in the path of the moving car. Jioqi feels a weird substance in the air, and she falls semi-conscious. One of the men grabs her from the car, as his leverage and threatens to throw her inside the sea of Mulai comes close to them. Mulai did not stop moving. Instead, he hits the man, and the man throws Jioqi into the sea. Mulai dodges in after her and saves her before she touched the water. Back at the villa, he puts her to sleep, and Suan informs Mulai that the kidnappers, including Hong Kwang, died from poison. Jioqi calls out to Mulai from her bed, and he goes closer. Angrily, she jumps on him and begins to hit him. Jioqi begins to beat Mulai aggressively because he is unreliable, and he left her to be kidnapped. Mulai apologizes to her and promises to make it up to her, but her father rebukes her rude behavior because Mulai is the reason why she is alive and with them. Mulai tells her to get off him so that he can rise, but she realizes that she has been straddling him, so she quickly scrambles off him in embarrassment. Suan informs Mulai that Mr. Sun and his son Chengren are around to see him. Mulai enters the living room and sits with an air of authority like he owns the place. The father and son bow respectfully in front of him and apologizes for all their misbehavior towards him. To show that they are sorry, they present him with a check, and he tells them to drop it on the table. He warns Chengren to stay off his sister and lets them go. Mulai visits the internet cafe to check the dark web. He enters into a gamble with someone named B. Stings, who has a big reputation around the place, and everyone places bets on them. At home, Jioqi disturbs Mulai that she will like to go out, but he is distracted by the updates from the chat room about the gamble. Jioqi continues to disturb Mulai that she wants to go out, if not for anything to search for the person that saved her from drowning because he had warm arms. Earlier, she had thought that it was another person that saved her and not Mulai, so he did not bother to correct her. Suddenly, Mulai drags her into the house because he sensed a strong killing intent around the place. He gives her the jade ornament and makes her wear it for her safety. Jia refuses to wear the jade bangle because she feels it is ugly, but Mu Lai convinces her that it is for her good. He waits patiently for Bee Sting's attack, but it did not come. After 4 hours, Mu Lai begins to think that Bee Stings is too cautious, and he is deliberately avoiding an attack on Jia because he is close by, so he made bait. He calls out to Jia and tells her that there is cute white rabbit outside which she will like to see. Jia hurries outside to search for the rabbit, and Bee Stings makes his attack. Mu Lai steps out and fights off Bee Stings, despite all the tricks that he tried to use. Bee stings and goes into hiding while wondering how Mu Lai could be so strong. At the internet cafe, the people that were betting on Bee Stings to win are all crying about the loss of their money because Mu Lai has defeated Bee Stings. During the fight, Bee Stings wanted to play smart by going under the water and hiding his breath, but Mu Lai walks on the water to where he is and makes him come out. Bee stings and tells Mu Lai to bring him out of the water, and he tries to stab Mu Lai, but he only prepared himself for failure with his actions. Mu Lai takes the knife from him and throws him up. He throws the knife directly at him, and it enters Bee Sting's forehead. Everyone in the forum starts to comment angrily that Mu Lai must have known that he can beat Bee Stings, so he rallied them to gamble on the game. At the villa, Jia gives him a card as his earnings from the gamble, which was delivered to the villa. Just then, Mu Xin sends her brother a message telling him that their mother misses him. Mu Lai vows that he will never let his family suffer again. At the train station, the train stops at the terminal, and everyone alights except for him and the girl that slept off on his shoulder. Mu Lai begins to wake her, but a group of men surrounds them. The men have come to confront the girl named Xiaotong Yu over an elixir that their master has prepared. Xiaotong refuses to hand it over to Wu Hong and his men. Rather, she begs Mu Lai to run away, as he would not be able to withstand Wu Hong and his clawing skills. The men think that she must have hidden the elixir with Mu Lai, and they go after him while Wu Hong beats Xiaotong. Mu Lai tries to protect her, but she tells him that she does not want an innocent person to die because of her. Wu Hong thinks that she is disrespectful for daring to talk in his presence, and he attempts to hit her with his baton. The men overpowered her, and they seize the elixir from her hand. Wu Hong beats her till she starts to bleed from the mouth, and Mu Lai intervenes. He starts by taking out the men with Wu Hong with easy moves, and he goes after Wu Hong. Mu Lai defeats Wu Hong, and he starts to beg for mercy because he did not realize that he was up against a higher power before. Mu Lai takes the elixir back, but it slips from his hand before he could give Xiaotong, and she begins to cry. Mu Lai tells her not to worry, and that he will accompany her to save her grandfather. Xiaoxiang Yu, Xiaotong's elder brother, calls out to her from his car. He sees Mu Lai with his sister and wonders why they are together, but she promised to tell him later. Mu Lai joins them in the car, and they get on the way. Xiaoxiang asks his younger sister if she has the regenerator, but she tells him sadly that it is a long story. Xiaoxiang becomes mad because it is their only hope of saving their grandfather, but she pleads with him to be calm. Xiaoxiang becomes scared that they may be unable to save their grandfather, because Xiaotong, whom they believe in, has failed them. At the hospital, the physician and his assistant discuss that there are nothing left for them to do for Mr. Yu. The old man is surrounded by his children and other family members who have come to stay with them. Xiaotong enters the hospital room and her relatives are relieved that she is back, but it is not for long because she reveals that she does not have the elixir with her. But she tells her father that she met a powerful man with her who may be able to help. Mu Lai enters the room, but as usual, nobody takes him seriously. He walks up to the man and touches him. Mr. Yu's children already believe that their father cannot be saved, so they paid little attention to Mu Lai. Mu Lai uses the easiest and most effective way to heal the old man. By his bedside, Mu Lai lifts his hands and a glow begins to form. The old man begins to rise slowly from the bed. Everything in the room, including humans, became displaced and Mu Lai's power was violent for a moment. Some people crash into the wall, while the old man turns into an awkward position and lands on the bed with his stomach. Everyone becomes alarmed, and they think that their grandfather is dead. In between the chaos of blaming each other for letting Mu Lai touch their grandfather, Mr. Yu wakes up. Xiaotong is the first person to notice, and she quickly rushes to his side. The man exclaims that his injury is healed and he feels more healthy than he has in a long time. The family members began to thank Mu Li for his help, and he tells them that since there is nothing for him to do anymore, he will leave. He refuses any form of payment, and the family head tells him that if he needs anything they will do it for him. He requests a 100-year-old leaf, and they promise to get it for him. The family head instructs the driver to take Mulai to his destination, which is home. He vows to make his mother enjoy the luxury she did not enjoy in her previous life. Mulai sits at the table with his mother, and she tries to make sure that he has enough to eat. She puts more food on his plate and tells him to eat so that he can grow. Mulai quietly remembers his previous life and how he struggled with his mother to survive. One day, while he was still a little boy, his mother slept off due to tiredness, and he tried to prepare dinner. Mulai ended up throwing the heavy pot of food away, but his mother helped him, and she got burnt in the process. Now, Mulai turns to his mother and apologizes for the hurt he has put her through. He promised to pay off their debt and also buy her a house. His mother looks at him intently, and she is happy that he has changed for good. He tells his mother that he went out to work for money, to give them a better life, and she tells him not to be wasteful with it. Mulai goes to check out some properties in a nice neighborhood. He sees Zhu Wenda, who is an ugly but rich man with his girlfriend also. They walk up to him, and his girlfriend calls out to him like they know each other. The girl is Zhou Mai, his junior high school mate. Then she took advantage of his likeness for her, and she always made him steal money for her food and movies. She introduces herself to him and looks at Mulai in a hateful manner, and asks what he was doing in such a place since his family is too poor to afford one of such houses. Mulai says nothing to her comments, but he thinks back to the many times she has taken advantage of him in the past. Mulai looks her over and decides that she must have done plastic surgery to get her new body, but he says nothing. Mai tells the sales representative that they want the suite, but Mulai asked for it first, so the salesperson sold it to him. Mai tells the lady that Mulai cannot afford such a place, but Mulai pays the whole price before her. Mai tells Zhu Menda to get her the same apartment, but the salesperson informs them that there is only one of it. Zhu Menda calls the sales manager and tries to get him to sell it to them. The sales manager approaches Mulai and tells him to forfeit the place for another estate with a 20% discount, but he disagrees. Just then, one of the people from the Yu family walks up to them. Xiaoxian Yu walks up to Mulai and introduces himself. He asks Mulai what he is looking for around their properties, and Mulai explains to him. Xiaoxian gets mad at his sales manager, while Zhou Mai wonders why Xiaoxian was showing too much respect to Mulai. Xiaoxian bans Zhu Menda from their establishment, and Zhu Menda slaps Zhou Mai for making him get on the bad side of a powerful man. Xiaoxian resolves the housing issue for Mulai, who promised not to pursue the matter. At the house, his mother worries over the cost, but he assures her that he has the money. As they were moving in, a man named Chen Long came to introduce himself as their neighbor. Mulai warns him because he thought the young man was hitting on his sister. Chen Long informs him that a ghost haunts the house every night and recounts the story. He tells Mulai that he is planning to sell his unit and move away for his peace of mind. At first, Mulai disbelieves him and calls him a drunk, but when he sees that Chen Long was serious, he decides to intervene. He tells Chen Long to sleep in a hotel for the night and collects his key. That night, Mulai slept in Chen Long's unit to deal with the ghost for the sake of his family. If you like this recap, do let me know in the comments, and obviously leave your like too. Do not forget to share with your friends and subscribe. Above all, activate your notification bell so you don't miss the next recap when it drops. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.